Thank you so much for coming. This budget hearing is a joint budget hearing between District 3 and District 5. We have cameras rolling tonight, so we need everyone to come up here when they speak, just FYI on that. There is a presentation prior to taking testimony. Actually, we have two presentations this year. One that explains budget, and then one that talks about what we're proposing, what the manager's proposing for the budget this year. So I am Councilwoman Deborah Stark from District 3, and you are sitting in a lovely part of District 3, Sunnyslope, a great little part of District 3. We're really happy to have you here. And it's actually not too far from District 5, and so Danny?
Thank you, Deborah. Our councilwoman's doing a great job. I want to thank you all for coming out. You could be anywhere you want to be. I just want to stand up for a second so everyone can see me for just a moment. This is so incredibly important. This is an opportunity for us to pass a budget. Well, we have to pass a budget. This isn't Congress where you can kick the can down the road and allow the deficit to continue to climb. We actually have to pass a budget by law. So whether we participate or not, the city manager has to bring a budget before the council, and we have to vote on it. We can't delay it. That's why it's important to have as much input as possible. So we want to hear from you. We have a trial budget that some of you have already picked up on the way in. Milton Dahoney, who you'll meet in just a moment. We're lucky to have Milton here, our assistant city manager. We have so many great city staff here. We are all interested. We all live here. We raise our families here. This is really personal to us, to all of us as well. So what you'll notice, I'm pretty confident, by the time we get from these budget hearings to actually voting on a budget, it's going to look a little bit different. And it should. And I ask you to challenge us to make it look a little differently, because that's when you know your fingerprints are on this. So this is very important to all of us. We want to hear from you. We want to know if you think we have enough first responders. I tend to think we don't. You know, how are our senior centers working out, libraries, who thinks we need repaved streets, and what are some of those really good ideas that you can think of that the city may not be thinking about? Homeless outreach, I think I was going to say arguably, but I don't think anyone is arguing it is the top social issue we have in our community. So what are we going to do around homeless outreach? So those are the types of things that we want to continue to hear about from you, and we're all very fortunate to have someone who knows these issues very, very well, and Deborah Stark hosting us tonight, because we are in Sunnyslope. We're in the Slope in District 3, and thank you for allowing me to join you on this one, Councilwoman.
Thank you. Actually, I probably should put in a plug for Slope Fest. That's April, is it 22nd? I'm looking for Stephanie. She may be outside. Is it? You guys have to come to this. This will be great. The 21st. And it's going to be in the morning, so hopefully it won't be too toasty. And anyone interested, see us. We'll get you the details. So we're going to turn it over to our assistant city manager, Milt Dahoney. He's going to go through some of the steps. We are going to establish a time limit tonight because we have so many speakers. And I apologize in advance, but I'm sure all of you don't want to be here all night. So we'll probably go with 2 minutes. So. But we know what you have to say is important, and we're listening. So, but if you can be succinct with your comments, we would appreciate it. We'll turn it over to Milton.
Thank you, Councilwoman. My name is Milton Dahoney. As you said, I'm the Assistant City Manager. First of all, I want to introduce our interpreter. This is Alex, and she has equipment. If anyone is in need of interpretive services, we are able to do that. This is one of 15 different budget hearings that are happening around the city. All of them are similar. They will culminate on April the 17th, and then we'll go back, take the input from the various budget hearings, and as Councilman Valenzuela indicated, the city manager will then tweak the trial budget and propose a proposed budget to City Council. So tonight we're going to start off with 2 short videos. The first one is one that is new for us, and it came as a result of feedback that we got from the public last year on providing an educational piece on just what the budget is. And so we'll show the first video that's educational, and then that will be followed by a video on the manager's trial budget. So if we could roll the educational video.
Let's talk about the City of Phoenix budget. But wait, don't go anywhere. We're gonna make this quick and interesting. Did you know that last year, 1.5 tons of broccoli were served at Phoenix senior centers? And city vehicles like these garbage trucks traveled 2.9 million miles. That's equal to 119 times around the earth. Can't forget about our furry friends, the city's trained police and fire dogs. Their job is to sniff out the bad guys and find evidence. Last year, they ate 24,000 pounds of food to stay strong. So what does any of this have to do with the city budget? Everything. The Phoenix budget is around $4 billion and pays for lots of services that make your life better, safer, and more convenient. It's a huge effort made up of lots of smaller pieces, the programs and people that it takes to get the job done. So how those pieces fit together, the people, the buildings, the vehicles, and equipment, gets us to the total city budget. Explaining how it works isn't always easy. Managing every item in a budget with over 400 different services provided by over 14,000 employees is a year-round project, one we work on every day. And it's you, the residents of Phoenix, who we have to thank for giving us a budget to balance. The bottom line is that we get revenue, taxes and fees for specific services and grants that we spend on the cost of services. That's city employees, buildings, equipment, contracts, and supplies. Here's how we get revenue to pay for important city services. For example, when you eat at a restaurant, shop in a store, fill up the tank, fly out of Sky Harbor, or pay your property taxes or your water and trash bill. That all helps to pay for things like fire and police, paving roads, new bike lanes, more library books, street lights, clean water, parks and trails, just to name a few. To provide these important services, we divide our work and track our costs through 36 city departments and functions like police, fire, parks, libraries, neighborhood services, water and aviation, and our support services like the city clerk, human resources, finance, budget, and information technology departments. Like clockwork, every spring, departments look at what it takes to provide the services for the year. Did employees leave, or did new staff join the team? Are there needed or unplanned building or equipment repairs? What will broccoli cost next year? Are there new projects that need to be considered? Okay, we talked about broccoli. Now let's talk about pie. Every department gets a slice, or at least a sliver of the pie, and most departments like police, fire, libraries, parks, neighborhood services, and human services are supported by the general fund. It's a pot of money that comes from these areas: general sales and property taxes, revenue distributed by the state from income, state sales, and vehicle taxes, and some fines and fees. The general fund is a little less than a third of the entire budget because it pays for services that everyone needs, like public safety, senior and youth programs, neighborhoods, and libraries. It's the part that gets the most of the public's attention. Now, check out this slice. It's a little more than a third, and it's called enterprise funds. Think business revenue. This slice is from those departments that only charge the people who use their services directly. For example, airlines and passengers at the airport, conventioneers, water and sewer users, and customers who pay for trash pickup and recycling. And the last slice is called special revenue funds. That's the last third of the budget. This is funding that comes from taxes dedicated for a special purpose. For example, Phoenix Parks and Preserves, Transportation 2050 for streets and transit, and the special dedicated sales taxes for police and fire hiring. Now, to get the budget to the next step, first we take a look at what we think it'll cost to provide our services next year, looking at salaries and benefits for the employees in each area. That's about 80% of our general fund budget, as well as other costs like replacing equipment and paying for gas, electricity, computers, and supplies. Then we estimate how much revenue we will take in through taxes, fees, and grants. By law, we have to make the revenue and expenses match. That's called a balanced budget. If there's not enough, we ask how to cut back. But if there's more revenue than expenses, we ask how it should be spent. It's the same process for general funds, enterprise funds, and special revenue funds. That asking is called the trial budget. It's a list of proposals from the city manager and staff based on what they have heard from the city council and the community. It's a trial budget because it's not final. It's a starting place to hear from you. The trial budget is discussed with the city council, and then we come to you. Every resident of Phoenix, yes, all 1.6 million of you, are invited to tell us what you think. You can attend a meeting and give your feedback there, or read the trial budget online and give feedback that way. Based on what you tell us, the budget is revised and presented to the city council for a second round of discussion and feedback. And then the final budget is developed and presented for the city council to formally adopt. That means when July 1st rolls around, broccoli can be served and trucks can roll through the city. Departments know how much funding they have. Remember the pie? But they have to live within their means and use only the slice they've been given. What happens next? A new year of work. The budget process for the following year starts, and we do it all again. Managing and balancing the budget is a big responsibility, and we are glad to have you be part of it every year.
So now we'll move straight into the manager's trial budget.
And now, the City of Phoenix 2018-2019 trial budget. Last year, we projected a potential budget deficit for 2018-19, more expenses than revenue, as high as $60 million. Thanks to strong leadership from the mayor and city council, we took early action, and now we have a balanced budget. Here's what we did. Last September, the city council voted to reduce overhead expenses. The council also acted on a new state law that allowed us to spread our public safety pension payments over 25 years instead of 20 years. The city also held the line on spending, giving us a surplus fund balance to start the year. And a healthy economy kept revenues on target. All this led to a 5-year forecast with our budget in balance. Now the trial budget starts with basically the same pie as last year, continuing our core services. In the general fund and dedicated revenue funds, this includes hiring firefighters and police officers, providing funding for parks, streets, transit, libraries, senior centers, youth services, arts and culture, and neighborhood services. We also have funds to replace aging vehicles, especially police cars and fire equipment, repair buildings and facilities, and keep our computer systems up to date. And with some of the savings from last year, we funded a police and fire pension reserve fund to help pay any unexpected future changes in their pension costs. The trial budget includes $2.7 million in proposed enterprise and special revenue fund additions to keep pace with growth and workload demands, as well as $2.9 million in additional general funds to allocate for community services. The general fund provides support for basic services across the city, like police and fire staffing, park and library operations, and programs for youth and seniors. Let's walk through each area. First, the general fund. Public safety has the highest priority in our budget, with over 70% of our general fund going to police, fire, prosecutors, court system, and emergency management. In the trial budget, the proposal is speed up processing of the more than 77,000 police public records requests received each year by reallocating current resources. In addition, the police department will add resources for crime scene investigation. Adding 5 new positions will help officers locate and apprehend violent offenders possessing guns. The addition of 8 fire protection positions to support the city's building inspection program and ensure properties throughout the city comply with fire safety laws and standards. And we're budgeted to continue hiring police officers and firefighters. The trial budget includes a $6 million general fund set aside and related grant support to keep fire's filled staffing level at 1,654 positions for the next 3 years. Reducing the impacts of homelessness in Phoenix is a priority. With a nearly 60% increase in unsheltered homeless, the goal of the city is lead with services by connecting individuals experiencing homelessness with appropriate services while reducing the impact on Phoenix neighborhoods. The PHX Cares Community Action, Response, Engagement Services Initiative saw more than 1,000 calls for outreach and engagement in the first 3 months. As part of the new PHX Cares initiative, the proposed budget provides for additions across human services, neighborhood services, and parks and recreation, including the addition of 2 more contracted homeless outreach teams to increase the city's caseload capacity by 360 clients per year, and continuing to lead with services. Parks and Recreation will add 2 ranger positions to provide direct outreach to people needing services in the city's urban park system. This brings our total number of rangers to 79. Adding 2 positions to coordinate client service referrals, improve response times, and ensure coordination of efforts by all city departments to address code violations that arise from encampments. Phoenix continues its investment in neighborhood livability in this year's proposed budget with these proposed additions. Add 5 enforcement staff in the Neighborhood Services Department for a new sober living home licensing program. The purpose of this program is to enhance the health, safety, and welfare of residents of structured sober living homes and the surrounding community by establishing standards and regulations for the homes and their operators. As part of program administration, the City Clerk Department also will add 2 licensing positions to process and oversee applications funded through licensing fees. Increasing shade and replacing trees citywide with $450,000 to plant 750 trees annually and provide water and maintenance for them to thrive. This is also part of the city's Tree and Shade Master Plan. Additionally, the Office of Arts and Culture is proposed to receive an additional $30,000 in funds to increase grant funding for Phoenix arts and culture organizations to pre-recession levels. There is also funding for a project manager tasked with developing a Latino cultural center in the city of Phoenix. And for our libraries, continuing to restore hours for the community. This proposal makes Sunday hours permanent at 4 libraries: Yucca, Century, Harmon, and Ocotillo. Lastly, the budget provides for funding to support outreach for the 2020 census to make sure all residents participate and get counted, and the staff needed to oversee the city's involvement with the census count. Now for the non-general fund piece of the pie. Remember, this funding comes from dedicated fees and charges to customers, like development fees from companies that must pay for construction-related services provided by the city. The Planning and Development Department will use this revenue to add 18 positions, handling everything from plan review and site inspections to mapping, long-term planning, and more frontline staff for customer service assistance. Additionally, the Street Transportation Department will use special revenue funds to add 30 positions at a cost of $859,000 to improve our streets and support the paving maintenance and traffic improvements, as well as traffic signal electricians, Transportation 2050 related bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure development and maintenance, and employees to oversee the city's pavement plan, street sweeping, and proper implementation of Americans with Disabilities Act required projects. Altogether, these pieces of the pie do more than describe the work our city departments will do in the coming year. They tell the story of Phoenix's continued growth to be the 5th largest city in the country, with a diverse and thriving economy and a community that's in demand as a great place to live, work, and play. Thanks for taking the time to learn about the 2018-19 City of Phoenix trial budget. And please don't forget, this year's budget hasn't been adopted just yet. Your input is important, and the City of Phoenix wants to hear from you on what the upcoming budget should look like. Make sure you pick up a budget pamphlet outlining all the proposals and options at any of the public meetings or online at phoenix.gov/budget. You can also send your comments or questions to budget.research@phoenix.gov, or to reach us by phone, call 602-262-4800. You can also comment on social media by using #PhoenixBudget. Thank you for participating in this important process.
Thanks again. Was remiss, I forgot to mention the mayor's also has one of his staff persons here tonight. The mayor has had his staff at all of the various hearings. So they report back to him, usually with a fact sheet the next day. So thank you for being here. So let's get started. I forget, I got to get this close to me. I apologize. I have a soft voice. So we're going to try to limit again to 2 minutes. And Cleo Lewis, who's in the back, you're up first, Cleo. You knew that was going to happen, right? I need you to come up to the microphone. Thank you. Followed by Gloria. Just keep moving. Right there. We're televising this for other council.
Thank you. My name is Cleo Lewis. I'm an assistant pastor at our neighborhood, North Mountain Christian Assembly in District 3. I could probably take the whole 2 minutes talking about the relationship we have with city staff. We're thankful. Folks, I've looked at this. It's a great trial budget. I looked at the numbers that we got from Desert Horizon. They're doing a fabulous job in public safety. However, the city of Phoenix is growing. We got to do something with police and fire. We got to. I deal predominantly in outreach, a corridor called Hatcher. And when I have a person down on Hatcher, and Engine 7 comes to Hatcher, it almost brings tears to my eyes if I go around the corner and I find another person down and I call again. Engine 7's already dedicated. The next response is just unreal to get people help. And that could be you down the street. We just have to do that with police and fire. I don't know where we're going to get it at. When the CARES program came out, I was pessimistic. I didn't think it was going to work. I had a problem with it. However, they've exceeded even my pessimistic expectations. I anticipated 2 to 3%. They're at 10%. I know from a management standpoint, we talk about the rest not being effective. We need to do an interface with CARES and HSC. We may not like it, but when a guy like me is out in the middle of the night and I call somebody, All we have is CARES. CARES is innovative. No one else has tried this. And you know what? The homeless situation is not going to go away. So we're going to have to address it. We're going to have a multi-phasic attack, and CARES is part of it. And us in the faith-based community, we've been getting a free ride on it. I'm gone. Thank you.
Thank you, Cleo.
It's hard to give a preacher 2 minutes. Thank
Yeah. And I'm sorry, Gloria, I didn't see, you didn't wish to speak, but you wanted to put on the record that it has been almost 10 years since Mesquite Branch has been closed on Fridays. I'm sorry, I know, I have it's been almost 10 years since Mesquite Branch has been closed on Fridays. This is a major inconvenience to patrons, and we greatly appreciate the hours being restored. And we also have another speaker card, do not wish to speak, but also on the libraries. All libraries, every day, all day. Library services, a basic community need far beyond books, jobs, adults, education, and general life quality with meetings and social opportunities. Our next speaker is Gabriel. You're back. Come on up. He spoke earlier at our 5 o'clock. Thanks for coming back.
Yeah, definitely. Can everybody hear me good? Yeah, raise your hand. I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding. Oh, that's my high five. Yeah, just kidding. So just give you a little backstory about myself. I work for the REBA, Regional Behavioral Health Authority for the Maricopa County, which is MMIC. I work as part of their Youth Leadership Council, which is an awesome group of young adults, trying to get the services and resources out there to our community on behavioral health services. Definitely get the community involved too with us and kind of understanding the needs and kind of the youth voice filled out there in our community. And I see my 2 awesome people over here that were here in the same place. I love you guys. I love the shirts, by the way. Yeah, they look nice. But I just want to take time out to, in a sense, share my personal story in a sense, like just within the 2 minutes, no worries, I'm not going to go over. But I was diagnosed at the 12 years old with schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, anxiety, and depression. Now, the whole reason is that led to a lot of different traumatic experiences, but the reason I want to share that to you is if we're going to increase the funding, we definitely have to remember to increase the quality of services that we are deciding to fund, Definitely it is a great idea to fund more services, whether they be for general, functioning like police officers and fire department, but we got to make sure we're doing the right things to make sure we're hiring the right people. And that definitely is, I'm not saying that the men and women out there who served, don't do a great job. They do, trust me. I don't ever say that, or else, I'd be scared. Just kidding. No, but the reason I want to mention that is because a lot of the communities that I serve as a leader, whether it be high school students or whether it be the Latino Hispanic community or even, behavioral health clients, they are very much in need of a lot of the community's help as far as, getting informed and definitely having some, in a sense, help from getting educated on every situation that we are coming against. Definitely we work a lot with the homeless population as far as we do, and some of them who have been diagnosed and, fall through the cracks in our services. So we definitely do a lot of outreach in the community, and we are even thinking about starting a few possibility events. So I'll leave it to the, clock. So thank you.
Thank you. Did a good job, didn't he? Next speaker card doesn't wish to speak. John, I know you're here advocating for streets. And thank you. You've been to a couple of the other budget hearings. Next speaker, Jeannie Ann Summer. There she is.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. My concern is adding additional money to Phoenix Care. Okay. My concern is adding additional money to Phoenix Cares until there is data and at least a benchmark to measure and evaluate the program. The continuing high volume of calls doesn't seem to demonstrate success at this point. I would rather spend the money on rope officers and additional caseworkers until we know what works and doesn't work in Phoenix Cares. But what do we need? Leadership. Right now, there is no coordination between the many Phoenix services and the many nonprofits that are out there. That's a leadership role perfect for the city of Phoenix to cut the cost and support the compassion side of being homeless. The people of Phoenix are generous and caring. Please, Phoenix, develop a program that allows people to understand how to really help the homeless situation and not enable and continue to enable the problems. Our streets and water lines are failing. We aren't Detroit yet, but it's not good out there. Additionally, it's time to be honest about our shortage of police officers instead of playing a numbers game. Our officers are wearing out because of too few officers. Calls for service are not being met. Citizens call in, but no units are being assigned to the calls. That just happened in my neighborhood, and the call was for gunshots. That's scary. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie Ann. Our next speaker is Ken Crane. Come on down. Thank you, Ken. Ken's the head of the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association.
How's that? What? Okay.
I know, he's
Okay.
tall, and he's tall.
All right. Yeah. All right. Good evening. My name's Ken Crane. I'm president of the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association. I'll try to keep this a little more interesting than broccoli and dog food. I got a lot of points here. I hate to read from a script, but I don't want to miss anything. So I'll try to reel through these to get not below my 2 minutes. Phoenix currently is the 5th largest city in the U.S. Part of a big city means facing big city issues. So what's the truth? Well, number one, we're under attack by the criminal element who preys on families in the city. Hardly a week goes by now that you don't read about another headline about an officer-involved shooting. Criminals today are better armed and more willing to shoot at police officers than any time in my 29 years on the job. Our latest officer involved last night, okay? So every day your Phoenix police are fighting a war against these criminals. We continue to be short-staffed, and we continue to have trouble filling our squads and staffing our precincts. So how bad is it? As you sit here today, there are no more than 2 to 3 police officers patrolling the entire community of Ahwatukee. That's 3 cops for 70,000 people. We're also critically short-staffed in Maryvale, a community that continues to suffer some of the most serious crime in Phoenix. So why are we spending dollars on police overtime and sending out patrol units without sufficient backup? Well, because the city of Phoenix doesn't have enough cops. That's the simple answer. So here's some simple math. Over the last 12 months, and I'm talking 2017, 239 new Phoenix police officers graduated from the academy. That's good. It sounds good. Here's what they won't tell you. At the same time in that year, 137 retired and went out the door. So that was a net gain of 102 officers over the past year. If you divide it out over 12 months, that's a little over 8 cops per month that we hired in a 1-year period. That's not nearly enough, especially when you factor in promotions and assignments of officers to specialty details. So the truth, today Phoenix Police Department has the same, less sworn officers than we did in 2008 at the start of the economic downturn. So the city has added population, it's added businesses. Downtown Phoenix is growing on steroids, but we're still policing like we did 10 years ago. That's not just short-sighted or penny-wise and pound-foolish, it's dangerous. It's dangerous for the men and women on the front lines and dangerous for every resident of our city. Recently, our association surveyed more than 1,000 Phoenix police officers. We just got these results back. I'm going to share 2 very hard-hitting data points from that survey. 93% of our officers told us they believe manpower levels in our department are not sufficient to effectively fight crime. These are the boots on the ground, on the street telling you this. 93% told us they don't believe our police department has sufficient manpower to keep you and your family, along with us, safe. Effective policing and safe policing. 93% of our men women on the street are saying we don't have enough.
Ken, I'm sorry, I have
Yes.
to wrap you up. Thank you.
Okay. So that's why I'm here tonight. I just want to say loud and clear, we don't have the budget resources we need to keep the city safe. We don't have enough police officers to win the fight against crime. I have stood up here last year and said the same thing, and at the end of the day, it got us about 8 more cops a month over the last year. It's not enough. So thanks for your time and consideration. I hope I will not have to be here doing the same speech next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Brian Willingham. Thanks for being here, Brian.
Ken Crane and I weigh about the same amount. He's just this way. I'm more this way. This way. Brian Willingham, I work for Phoenix Fire Department. I've been a firefighter for 26 years, 18 with the city of Phoenix. This is my third fire department. I take a lot of pride in being a firefighter, as do you as being a community of this city, this great city. Many of our arguments are very similar to Mr. Crane's. You're going to see several firefighters come up here, so in an effort to avoid redundancy, I'll try to keep this very simple. This district specifically, I worked at Engine 7. Mr. Cleo, thank you. Thank you for what you do in the community. First of all, great segue to what our message tonight as well. Your ministry and the things that you folks do in the community actually take a burden off of us in many different ways, so thank you. Lord's work, appreciate you. Engine 7 is the busiest engine in the state of Arizona. They run over 5,400 calls a year. That's about, a couple years ago, a statistic came out, they were the 22nd busiest in the country. I don't know where they measure this year. Next year could change. They could run more calls and fall on that list. There's a lot of variables there. What I want to talk to you about tonight is the importance of having companies in service to be able to be available for your family. As many of you know, 87 to 90% of our job is medical. So on every fire truck that shows up to your house, you have 2 paramedics and 2 EMTs. There's a captain, there's an engineer. The engineer is the guy that drives and pumps the truck. So you need 4 people for a very specific reason. Now, everything that we do is based on standards, standard response times, standards for care, standards. Everything we do has a measurement that we measure ourselves against. 4 people. One, let's take a code, for example. Somebody unfortunately passes away. You call us. We have to get there within 6 minutes, according to the American Heart Association. National Fire Protection Agency says we need to be there in 5 minutes, okay? 4 minutes, is that my time? 4 minutes to get there in a timely response, 1 minute to get to the truck to push the button. That's because hypoxia sets in and brain death occurs in those time periods. You need us available. Running more calls in your community makes it more difficult for us to be available. The more calls we run, the less available we are. There are also geographical issues that I could get into. The bottom line is, as Ken Crane stated, we've gone to 1.7 million people in this community from 1.4 million people, and we still have the same amount of firefighters and fire trucks in our communities. I believe that creates a problem for you as a citizen. This isn't feather bedding for us, not asking for additional money for us particularly, specifically. This is for you and your families. That's our concern. Thank you for your time. Thank you for everything that you folks do.
Our next speaker is Tom Coretto. I bet you're going to speak about fire.
Good evening, everyone. I'll cut to the chase with my introduction. Tom Coretto, 12-year firefighter, lifelong member of Sunnyslope community. Spent my first 3 years on the fire department working at Station 7 on the engine and the ambulance. And I'm very proud to own my first home in Sunnyslope as well. I want to echo some of the points that Brother Willingham made, but I want to point out something a little bit different. 45% of our fire department runs 3,000 or more calls a year, which is considered very busy by industry standards. So if we go back to industry standards, almost half of our fire department is considered very busy. So what happens when a truck goes out to respond to a call is we refer to it as a vortex. Other trucks get called into the same area. The bigger the call, the more the trucks. As you can see, less resources where everybody else lives and where the demand is. So I just want everybody to consider the fire department is here, the Phoenix firefighters are here to demand a plan from city leadership. We need infill stations and we need more firefighters. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Craig Tripkin, former council member. Craig? Oh. Everyone's hanging out in the back. Craig will be followed by Patrick, so you can be ready? Okay. We'll let Craig go first.
Hi, I'm going to be very quick. I'll be under my 2 minutes, I promise. I'm here to talk about homelessness. I'm with Central Arizona Shelter Services. And if we're going to, homelessness is bad for the individual, it's bad for our neighborhoods, and it's bad for our community. And if we're going to do something about it, we have to understand a couple of facts. Number one, our homeless population on the street, unsheltered homeless, has tripled in the last 6 years. Our emergency shelter beds are going to be down, come September of this year, they're going to be down 27%, which is 340 beds. It's almost as big as CAS is altogether. CAS Case Management has an 85% positive exits of the known exits. Now, there are unknown exits, but 85% positive exits. We can only get to case manage about a third of the people who qualify, not a third of the people we see, but a third of the people who qualify for case management. We can actually case manage. If we could case manage most of the people that qualify, we could free up 70, 150, I don't know how many beds, but we could free up a number of beds. People talk about housing as being a solution to homelessness. Yes, it is, and I will also tell you that people always succeed more when they've been in shelter. Shelter's been underestimated as an important street detox. And I'm sure my 2 minutes are almost up, and I'll just close by saying that if you want to get homeless people out of our neighborhoods and off our streets, we will have a place for them to stay at CAS. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you a lot, Craig. You win the prize. Patrick, you want to come on up?
I want to thank my friends from the Andre House that are here tonight. All these people over here come and volunteer with us every week. Not just every week, they've been there with us for 17 years sometimes. We have a big family at the Andre House, and I want to say thank you to every one of you who came tonight. The girls call me half and half all the time, and I love that they do that because I'm half homeless and I'm half staff at the Andre House. But for me to be at the Andre House, I had to have accountability, I had to have goal setting, I had to have time management and people skills. I'm not the perfect person because I have a homeless mind, but every time I messed up, that's what the Andre House did with me. They worked with me. They told me what I needed to do. They taught me what was right and what was wrong. And that's what the shelter does. I'm not here to say that CARES doesn't do anything. And I'm not here to say that CBI doesn't do anything. And I'm not here to say that half of the things we have in the shelter don't do anything, but they're taking 250 people, including me. I sleep on the floor every night at St. Vincent de Paul's, and they're throwing us out without any plan. They need to have a plan for every person they're throwing out. For me, it's okay. I live a lavish lifestyle at the Andre House because I have a job there. But you know, there's a friend of mine named Jim. It takes him a half an hour to walk from one block because he can't breathe. And then he has to sit down for 15 minutes. They're not thinking about Jim. They're not thinking of my friend Betsy. It's a schizophrenic that goes to the library and bothers nobody. They're just going to say, hey, it's over and done with. We need to have a really good plan so we know how to take care of our friends. And they are our friends here, aren't they? Are they our friends? If we took, I got an idea. Everybody wait 1 second. I got a really good idea for everybody. Guess how much it costs for us to light Phoenix, Arizona? You're right, $10 million. What if we shut down all the lights in the parking garage tomorrow? Hey, that gives us a lot of money to help the homeless. That gives us a lot of money to give the fire department. That gives us a lot of money to open new parks. That gives us a lot of money for the arts. I don't think we need as many lights burning in Phoenix, Arizona as we have today. The thing I don't understand, too, is we have that Phoenix downtown, and they have a budget for trees, to plant new trees. And I got to say, Phoenix downtown is a great organization. Everybody should stop and ask the guys. I need, ask me T-shirts. They have a budget for trees. Why do we have a budget here in town for trees, and then why do we have a budget for Phoenix downtown? I don't understand that part. That's $740,000 right there. We got a lot of money that we can take and help a lot of people with, especially the fire and the police. I got to commend everybody that works as a fireman and a policeman, because I see what they do at Cass. The firemen and policemen in this town have more restraint than any other department that I've been in this country being
Patrick, we're
home.
going to have to wrap it up.
I wanted to mention too, the last thing I want to mention, is a lot of people didn't use their time. They didn't use their 2 minutes. The girls have a lot to say. If you can give them a couple extra minutes for the people that didn't use their time up, that would be
Actually,
great.
only one didn't use their time. Everyone's gone over. Thank you. I'm sorry. Because Nancy Spivey, am I saying? Spivey, I'm sorry. I knew I was going to butcher it. I apologize. Hey,
I'm in new District 6, but I'm
that's
just
okay.
here.
We welcome you.
Thank you. I'm Nancy Spivey. I live in District 6. And we have these people from Andre House, and they're all volunteers, as Patrick said. And the only reason I wanted to stand up and speak was to invite city people to come to Andre House and see what goes on there. They serve meals on, let me get this right, Friday night's the only night they don't serve. So if you come down there at, what, 5:30, you think? Come down and see what it is. See what all these volunteers do down there to help the homeless. And there does need to be better services. I'm glad you put in 2 additional homeless outreach teams. It's not enough. It's not enough. The police are doing the best they can. They go out and pick up people that are harming themselves or others in the street. And these are people that need mental health services. What are we doing with our mentally ill? We're just leaving them. We take them to community bridges. They go through. They hang out there for, I don't know, 72 hours. And then they're released back to the street. They need treatment. They need support. They need human services. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Casey Whitehead. Welcome back.
Hello. Again, thanks for having me this evening. Wonderful Thursday night. Hello, I'm Casey. I work at Andre House, as already been mentioned. And what we do there is we provide basic needs for people experiencing homelessness and extreme poverty. What I'm here to talk about is Phoenix Cares. It does provide support for certain people. It does make outreach into neighborhoods and communities and different places. But for our most vulnerable guests, people who are chronically homeless, the mentally ill, which has already been stated, thank you. And then for those who are medically fragile, they do not receive these services. One, there's 90% of people who are being reached out to and are not receiving services. But two, there's people who are in the zone who are not getting these services. They're not being offered anything. They're not giving support. They're not given love, the dignity, the human respect that everyone deserves. People can call or email Phoenix Cares, and then they're supposed to come, and they don't come to the zone. They've emailed our director saying, we're not going to come anymore to this area. The zone is between 15th Avenue on Madison and then probably about 9th or 8th Avenue on Jackson. This is an area where the encampments are at, and then kind of like the mini tent city. There's people who need shelter. There's people who need support. So Phoenix Cares, they do connect people to services, but what they do really is, for the other 90%, where do they go? They're being pushed to the area of the zone. In this area, they're not getting the support they need. They're living on the street, or they're in the overflow shelter across the street, which is closing. Hundreds of people will be on the street by the end of September. There needs to be resources, and we don't have resources. I just can't say that enough. We don't have it. We do not have the resources. There's a 60% increase in homelessness in Phoenix in the past year. 60%. There are hundreds of people in this little area of the zone. If you include inside the shelters and on the street, there's over 1,000 people. Last and not least, I would like to say our guests need shelter and our guests need case management, and Phoenix Cares do not provide either of these things for the most fragile and those who need the services the most. Because if we do not help those who are mentally ill and medically fragile and they're unable to get into shelters, and the shelters are kicking people out soon, who's going to help them? We need to help them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Anna Chavez. Welcome back.
Hello, good evening. My name's Anna. I work at Andre House with Casey and these wonderful volunteers. So I'm going to be elaborating on the overflow shelter, which I'm sure you guys have heard about a lot tonight. The overflow shelter that is located in St. Vincent de Paul on 11th and Jackson in the Human Services campus is expected to close September 1st, 2018. In lieu of its closure, there is no alternative shelter option to those who will be displaced. Beginning April 9th, 2018, next week, there will be a decrease of 50 beds per month, continuing until September 1st, or until all of the people sleeping in the shelter are either housed, which I find highly unlikely, or on the street. There are currently 240 plus people sleeping on the street solely in the zone area. If there is no alternative shelter by the time of this closure, we will have upwards of 400 people sleeping in the street. This is not only inhumane, but also unsafe, especially in the Arizona summer. Many of the guests who sleep in the overflow shelter are there because there are no other options for them or their unique story. So, oftentimes they are suffering from mental health concerns or they are very medically fragile. Cats in the campus are not reaching the most medically vulnerable, given that they have regulations and rules that most of those who suffer from mental illness and disabilities struggle to oblige. While it is a wonderful idea to increase housing vouchers, we must recognize that these vouchers do not work for everyone. Many of the people who are experiencing homelessness in the zone area require much more wraparound support, much more quality of services when they're housed, and that support simply does not exist. It is understood that the city does not currently fund the overflow shelter and that the county helps to support it, but this does not mean that the city should not take on this role in the future, because it is the immediate need of many of the people experiencing homelessness. We need more shelter, and it is a gross injustice to allow our brothers and sisters to sleep on the street and not provide more options. Furthermore, I think we also need to have bathrooms on the street and sanitation in the zone, because these are people that are sleeping right next to their feces and urine each night, and that is just despicable and inhumane, because nobody deserves to live in that with that lack of dignity. Seattle and San Francisco have navigation centers with restrooms and access to water, and we encourage the city to look into that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lin Ling Lee. Ms. Lee, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Honorable Councilwoman Deborah Stark, Councilman Daniel Venezuela. I live in District 3 for 30 years, and I'm very proud to live in District 3. I'm speaking as Commissioner of Phoenix Office of Arts and Culture. Arts and culture is very important. Arts and culture enrich Phoenix and bring business to Phoenix, provide economic impact of more than $400.2 million, create job opportunity, and support local businesses as well. I'm here to ask City of Phoenix to increase budget for Office of Arts and Culture, especially public arts maintenance. I sincerely appreciate Mayor Greg Stanton, Councilwoman Deborah Stark, and Councilman Daniel Venezuela for your strong support to arts and culture. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker, David Gore. Raise it. It's got to go way up.
All the way up.
You're taller than Ken.
Where'd he go? I think I beat him.
I think you did.
Just by a little. That's fine. That's fine. I promise I won't bite it. Good evening. My name is David Gore. I'm a Phoenix native. I live just up the road on 7th Street. I'm a firefighter, a fire captain. I've been on the Phoenix Fire Department for 23 years, a captain for 13 of those. I was talking with Pastor Cleo back there. I worked at Station 27 on 32nd Street in Cactus for 10 years. Station 7 and Station 27 are two of the busiest fire stations in the city. All that we're asking is to take a serious look at the amount of fire trucks and the amount of firefighters, and the same with the police officers. It's a public safety issue. When I came on the fire department 23 years ago, when I was interviewed 24 years ago,
I promised them in my interview that I would protect the public, and that's exactly what I'm doing tonight, demanding that we get more police and fire on the streets, especially fire, sorry. There was one thing that I do want to mention that's very important. Since 2010, our calls have gone up over 50,000 calls. It's an average of 6,000 a year. It's not only dangerous to have a shortage of firefighters for us, it's more dangerous for you because it takes us longer to get there. 4 minutes is a very, very long time when you can hear that fire truck coming and we're on the way. So thank you very much. I was under 2 minutes, too.
I'm
wasn't I?
impressed. Thank you. And thank you for your service. Keith Rogers?
That's good right there. Hi. So you can see I work with Dave. My name's Keith Rogers. I'm a Phoenix firefighter. I've been on the job for 22 years. I'm a captain at Fire Station 20. So you guys might have seen 20 around here because 20 falls in this area when 7's out. My counterparts have mentioned a lot of stuff. So a couple things I just want to touch on really quick is the model that we've been using, or the city uses to determine our staffing needs, is outdated. Currently, the Phoenix Fire Department has 138 firefighters less than the minimum national standard. And so if we had 138 firefighters, it would give us 5 more fire trucks or engines and ladders. I do a little bit of traveling throughout the United States to other big cities, small cities, and talking with their firefighters, and I'm amazed on how some of those other cities, how much more staffing and trucks they have than us. And we are, what, number 5, number 6? And it's just amazed to see in their cities, they're not spread out like us. You know, so when you look at us and you go up north and you see how long it's going to take one of our fire trucks, it's going to take a moment. My station, like I said, I'm on 7th Avenue in Glendale. I come over here a lot, and because 7 is busy, I pretty much cover their south side because they run those 5,000 calls. I have an engine and ladder at my station, and we come here. There's other stations around, and there's sometimes when we are so busy over there, you guys get Station 27, where Dave was, and that's on 32nd Street and Cactus, coming all the way over here. So we need more engines and ladders. We need more personnel so that we could staff, because it affects, just like they said, for a code. Last night, I worked, and we were up 6 times, I think. I had 3 codes back to back. So with those 3 codes, I lost 2 of them. One was already dead. One, we got there in time and still passed away. Then another one was an overdose. You know, like we've been talking about the opiates. You guys have been seeing it on the news. We were able to bring that person back because we gave them Narcan and saved somebody's life. So it felt good. You know, we at least, you know, we got somebody back. So that's all I got to say, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Jeff Spellman. Welcome, Jeff. You got the memo on the shirt color.
Good evening, council members and residents and city staff. I'm Jeff Spellman. I'm here tonight representing 2 different organizations. The first one to speak about is Take Action Phoenix. Take Action Phoenix is a group of neighborhood residents, neighborhood leaders that have worked with the city of Phoenix for well over a year to develop the comprehensive zoning and licensing plan to regulate sober living homes, group homes in Phoenix. You've heard a lot about those issues. We're just about there. The zoning ordinance and the licensing ordinance is going to council this month, and hopefully they will approve it. And once that gets approved by the council, they need a little bit of money, some positions to actually manage that program. So I'm here to say in support of those positions in the budget. Done a very, very good job of putting that program together, and I think it's going to make a big difference in the safety of the people who live in sober living homes, as well as for the communities where they are located. Second thing I'm here for is on behalf of Violence Impact Project Coalition and to address the issue of homeless. How many people came in tonight and saw the campsite over on the corner of the park next to the shuffleboards? Okay? That's what you're getting from CBI. Even though all the park signs around here say, number 1 rule, no camping, number 2, shopping carts. It's exactly what you got over there. I wonder how many times CBI talked to them, okay? I do not support additional funding for CBI for community outreach workers. After 6 to 8 contacts, they're only getting 1 in 10 off the street. I don't call that success. I call that 90% ineffective. While the trash, needles, human waste all pile up in our neighborhoods, that's not the way it's supposed to be. Do not give one more penny to CBI. I do support the additional park rangers. I'm surprised by what I see out in that corner, but when I go around the city, I do see our parks getting better, and I think that's primarily because of the park rangers that we have out working our parks. That's a fairly new program in the urban areas, so a couple extra park rangers will help. I think what we need is take that CBI money and give it to Public Works and Streets. Those are the 2 departments that are charged with cleaning up the messes that are left behind, and right now they don't have 1 penny as part of the homeless outreach program to come and clean up, not 1 penny. So give that money to those departments that need to come and help clean up the messes. All right, with that, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Our next speaker is Gail Leonard. She's good.
Hi, I am a 68-year-old grandmother, mother of 5. One of my daughters ended up homeless with a drug problem. I'm here to tell you that most of the police calls and fire calls are due to our drug problem in this city and across the border. What I'm here to propose is that the city ask first of all, how many of you been to a movie in the last year? Stand up. Have you been to the movie? Stand up. I want to see how many people have been to Harkins or go to the movie. Okay. How many of you would pay 25 cents, drop a quarter in a bucket every time you went to a movie or a football game or a basketball game? Do you know that if we all did that, 25 cents, if they started a new movement of 25 cents on every ticket sold, whether it's professional, high school, or regular, we could raise, what did we say? We had 1 million people in our valley. You see how many that would take to raise, to build a shelter in each, just like a library. You could build those shelters in each community that would help each community relieve their homeless and their drug problems. And that's what I'm proposing, some kind of solution.
Thank you so much. Next speaker is Franklin Marino.
Can I take the time the fire captain didn't use?
You like to talk, Franklin. We know that.
I do. I'll make it kind of quick. My name is Franklin Marino, and I speak with 3 hats tonight. I'm a city resident. I own a home over in District 2. I'm in my 24th year with the Phoenix Police Department as a police officer, and I'm the secretary of the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association, so I'm one of Ken Crane's counterparts. I'm not going to hit on all the points that Ken hit on. However, I will tell you this, one thing he didn't mention. Since 2010, 985 police officers have left the Phoenix Police Department. We've lost almost 1,000 officers in 8 years due to retirements and such. So again, public safety is behind the power curve. The department is still down hundreds of positions. We did a rebid in 2017 after the new chief got here, and that was because we were short in patrol. So what the chief did, the chief gutted specialty and investigative details to backfill patrol. So you got more cops on the street, but now we're writing more reports with fewer detectives to do follow-up on those reports. So you're robbing from Peter to pay Paul. Traffic Bureau is a shambles. We used to have 150 motor officers. We are down to fewer than 40. Okay, so when you don't do traffic enforcement, it leads to more collisions. We've got an increase in serious injury collisions, an increase in fatalities. Fire guys can tell you that. There's been a drop in DUI arrests. Now, the city will say, well, we have photo radar, we have red light cameras. They don't stop people from driving drunk or impaired. They don't stop people driving on suspended licenses, because when those people get stopped by a police officer, they either get cited or booked and their vehicle gets impounded for 30 days. Response times for calls are still going up because we don't have the officers on the street. We've got a records management system we paid almost $50 million for. It's a fiasco. Takes our officers longer time to do simple reports, including traffic collision reports. Another cost-saving measure, the city made the police department shut down our central booking detail. It was a detail we created, I'll sum it up real quick, which would get police officers who make arrests on the street quicker because they were able to drop off prisoners, have the prisoners fingerprinted and photographed by personnel assigned to that detail, back into service. Now, back to the precinct, you're looking at a 3-hour process on a simple arrest. So, Phoenix, 5th largest city in the country, time to start acting that way. Staff the police department and also bump up the staffing on your fire department. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dorothy Ward. Dorothy Ward?
Thank you for having these meetings. They are really educational. I came here to speak about trees. And I think the trees are important, not only because they look nice, but because they help the air. Trees absorb carbon dioxide and they put oxygen out. So I really commend the city for planting 750 trees in the city. I think this is a good thing.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Carol Poor. There you go. Welcome, Carol.
Good evening, everyone. Councilwoman Stark, Councilman Valenzuela, and audience. I'm Carol Poor. I serve on the board of directors of Friends of Phoenix Public Art, which is a fairly new organization dedicated to education programs for advocacy for and fundraising to support our more than 200 outdoor public arts pieces, as well as more than 1,200 portable pieces like paintings and some really cool artwork that's been donated to the city since statehood. And so we have a gallery at City Hall, and we are also trying to raise supplemental funds to maintain these amazing treasures. And we all know, I mean, look at the artwork on the building here. You know, art creates connections and cultural awareness and a sense of place. And it also promotes economic development. And our city's outdoor pieces, such as the ones in your area, the Sunnyslope Canal Demonstration Project, for example, in the Maryvale Park Pool House, provides artwork where people that may not even have access to art can see art that's public, it's free, it's for everyone. But it's like having a car and you don't maintain your car. It's a great asset, it may be a beautiful car, but over time, if you don't maintain it, it breaks down. Same with public art, whether it's the sun, whether it's graffiti, whether it's just wear and tear. And so I'm here tonight for a very simple request, is to bring the budget for the maintenance of the 200 outdoor pieces and the 1,800 indoor pieces to bring it up $16,000, very specific tonight, to $100,000 for the annual maintenance budget. And we know that you both have been very supportive of public art, and we thank you for that, and we just ask that you maintain that $100,000 public art budget, because again, it's public art for all of us to enjoy. These are bridges, pathways, things that sometimes we don't even think about, but they're there and they need to be maintained. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol. The next speaker is Brian Vance.
Sunnyslope resident and had my business in this area for 53 years. I've been very active in the community. We need more cops. My house is in an area where we've had roughly $3 million worth of damage. If you write my name down, Corey knows about it, but I got to have him do something. I'm going to we need, my response time in my area is about 45 minutes for police. And I make all the excuses that I can for the police department because I know what you guys are up against. Fire, you're great. There is a problem in this town, in this state, in this country. People are going to have to come up with more money to pay for the things that have got to be done. All the bridges and all the interstates and 7th Avenue and 7th Street is because of lack of money. And it seems like there's something associated with red that says, cut taxes, cut taxes, cut taxes, okay? It ain't gonna work. A box of beer in Canada costs double what it costs here. A gallon of gas costs triple what it does here. And you know why? Because they need the money to do the things that they need to have done. Go to the city of Toronto and you'll see this is a fantastic city. Toronto is cleaner, has more cops, more fire department than we do because they tax the people to pay for it. We've got to pay for it. We're not going to have medical if we don't pay for it. And I don't know who ups the taxes, and I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Heather. Just Heather. Thank you.
Hi, you guys are a very organized bunch, and I'm super intimidated, but I live over on 23rd Avenue in Cactus, and I am here in support of more fire department. When I live, so the fire department is right here, and I live across the way from it, and our response times, like, I worry. I see how many calls they make because my house butts up against Cactus, and they're always running. They're going, and I see different numbered fire trucks, like I don't know what the significance is, but my station is 33, and I'm seeing like 7 and 32 and 42, and I've seen a yellow one, and I worry about if there is something in my neighborhood that goes wrong, are we going to get the help? I don't feel like there is enough fire department, and they're running, and you see them, and they're just always going. And I feel like they're kind of understaffed. There needs to be some more money for them to do what they need to do to service the people here in Phoenix. Because it seems like we're asking them to do too much and not supporting them. And that just doesn't seem right. And it seems like in the end, you can cut taxes and you can say, oh, no, we don't want to fund that. But in the end, when you have a loved one lying on the ground and there's nobody to help them, what do you do? So I would ask that we raise the funds for them. I don't know how that works. Like that guy was saying about the taxes. There's got to be some way to do this, but it seems like it's becoming a crisis. At what point do we say, oh, hey, who knew this was turning into an individual crisis? And you have all these guys saying, we're telling you it's a problem. And so I feel like is it that there's not enough voices saying, hey, this is a problem? So I'm here speaking with this organized bunch to tell you I'm freaking out because I feel like it's a problem. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Heather. I appreciate it. I believe that was our last speaker. So I want to thank everyone for coming. We'll stay for a little bit longer. If you have any independent questions, there's a lot of staff here. If you have any issues with regards to one department, maybe we can get you an answer tonight. I do appreciate you guys coming down, taking time out of your busy schedules. I'm going to turn it over to the councilman to see if he has any additional thoughts.
No additional thoughts. Thank you so much for speaking up. Now, this was recorded. That was mentioned. You'll find this on YouTube. Many of us will be sending this type of thing out, but we have more budget hearings, and I have the information here. Give me one quick moment. Actually, you know what? I think Milton already mentioned it. The information is in the packet for those of our neighbors that can't be here because they're busy. They're taking care of their children, grandchildren. They're working or they're going to school, whatever the case might be. they can call in. We want to hear from people. Call in, send an email, loop all of the members of the council in, the mayor, or city manager, city staff. It's important that we continue to hear from you. Thank you for speaking up. I think everyone, from our firefighters, police officers, those who are advocating for arts, those advocating for the most vulnerable, everyone is speaking up on someone else's behalf. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for caring for our city. God bless you.